This is Really Famous. I'm Kara Mayer Robinson, and I interview famous people. But I don't just interview them like your typical interview. I'm not really interested in those same old questions. Instead, I like to know who they really are and what they really think. My guest this week is Jeremy Sisto. Jeremy is currently starring in the CBS series FBI, a criminal procedural by Dick Wolf that was just renewed for season 2. He plays Assistant Special Agent in Charge Jubal Valentine, and you can catch him in FBI on Tuesdays at 9/8 Central. Jeremy's co-star is Celia Ward, who you may remember was on the podcast recently. Check out the season finale of FBI on Tuesday, May 14th. But you may know Jeremy from other shows such as 6 Feet Under, Suburgatory, and Law and Order. He was also in Waitress and so many other things. In this episode, we laugh, we cry, well, not quite cry, but he's authentic, and I think the two of us are very real together. I hope you like it. Here's Jeremy Sisto and me at the Ryu Plaza, New York, Times Square. Thanks, Ryu, for hosting us.
What is this? Do I have to hold it?
Okay, so this is your mic.
Or
You have to hold it.
just like a holding of a thing?
Is it a problem?
No, I think it's good. I'll get used to it, I think.
The reason, and I really have to say, I don't like these microphones.
like
I
it?
used to do the lavaliers so that you would feel like, and I
You're
would
just
feel like
talking, right.
Which is because that's how I like to talk. It's
Right.
just a regular talk.
Yeah.
But then the problem was the sound quality
Wasn't as good.
great.
Okay.
So it's like the quality of these, it's much better.
It's much better.
So I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I like them. I don't know. Yeah, it's like a rock star. You know, you kind of feel a little like, I want to sing or something, but I like it.
Someone told me recently, it's like a cocktail. I was like, okay, it's like a cocktail.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I can look at it like that.
Right, a rock star cock. I kind of see the rock star a little bit
Good.
more.
Now I'm just noticing you. Just like, and now it's like we're trying to be casual, but you've got this holding this microphone.
See?
I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at
All
you.
right, don't look at me. Just pretend this. Oh, maybe I could like dress it up as something.
Yeah.
Camouflage it as part of me.
Make it like a headgear thing.
Yeah.
You put it on their head and it's attached here, like an upside down trash bin.
Or, you know, those things from those like John Hughes movies where somebody would have like the braces and then the thing coming around it.
Breakfast Club, yeah.
Yeah, it could be like that or something.
Or no, not Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink.
Pretty in Pink, somebody had that? So you watched those movies too.
She was the one who went out with Long Duck Dong, I believe, wasn't she? Oh no, there was somebody. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think it was Joan Cusack.
Was it Joan Cusack?
Went out with Long Duck Dong, the most racist character in all of
Well, I remember
film.
him, but I feel like I don't remember her in that movie. But you think she went out with him?
Yeah, and she had she did that with her face. She had some kind of a headgear on. I think there was a scene in a bus. I remember the movie well, and I know Joan Cusack was there, and I think she played the one who hooked up with Long Duck Dong.
Well, I'll have to rewatch it.
And we know John Cusack was in it, so
Wait, John Cusack was definitely Pretty in Pink?
He was a dorky friend.
Oh, I'm picturing 16 Candles.
No. I'm picking that. I mean,
you are too.
Yeah, 16 Candles.
That's right.
John Cusack is in 16 Candles, yes. And Long Duck Dong is in 16 Candles.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had the right movie. We had the same movie,
Wrong
but
title.
wrong title. So
yes,
did you?
John Cusack was Anthony Michael Hall's dorky friend. That's my
Okay. You're sticking to it?
assertion.
Did you grow up on John Hughes movies? I did.
Yeah. Breakfast Club. We used to watch that over and over again, Breakfast Club. We loved it in around 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that.
Really? That young?
That seems a little young right now.
I think
I wouldn't show it to my kid yet.
No.
She's almost 10. Well, it had to be before 12. So yeah.
It had to be before 12? I feel like I was a teenager, but I feel like I watched it.
It was the video store. Remember going to the video store? That was such a big part of life.
Yes.
Blockbuster, how long it would take. You'd wander through. And I used to love going to Blockbuster.
Also, before Blockbuster, you would have a local joint.
Right.
So it was like the kind of thing where maybe one weird teenager would work there and know every single movie. And there would be very limited options. Blockbuster, you could choose anything.
Faces of Death.
Faces
Eventually,
of Death?
you don't remember Faces of Death? Now it's just called the internet, but Faces of Death was a video you could rent that, you know, if you were tough, you rented it, and it was just a bunch of people dying. It was like somebody on an operating table. They have video of somebody dying. They're eating monkey brains, I remember, was one of them. just like seeing people die. Now you can see that on the internet, YouTube shooting or whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can see people die. But back then it was
without even trying.
Without even trying, you can accidentally see people dying now.
But then you would actually go into you would know that's what the thing that you have to pull out.
Yeah,
it would be a
right
tape.
to passage. It was like you've seen Faces of Death. And I think I said I had, but I hadn't.
So you had to fake it.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of acting for you.
That's right. Man, and now my kids are just going to be...
So
did you hear about the new thing recently, Momo or something?
Oh, yes. Yes, that was like a scam. Yes. So my son is actually the one who told me. I didn't even hear about it. He's 10.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mom, you're not going to believe what this Momo thing
Did he see it?
Yeah, of course he saw it. He showed me.
Seriously?
Yes. But then I had to...
kill yourself.
No, it's
doesn't.
a big rumor. It's a huge.
It doesn't say kill yourself.
This is like I think when we were kids, Pop Rocks. Mikey from the Life commercial died from eating Pop Rocks. Did you remember that?
I remember Mikey. Yes, but I don't remember him.
Okay, so there was something floating around, something like that, or Coke and Mentos or Pop Rocks or something.
Pop Rocks.
And that he died because of it. So that was like a thing that went around. And we didn't even have the internet then, but that went around everywhere. So I went, of course, the first thing I did was like, well, what is this? I have to research it. I have to get to the bottom of this. What is this Momo thing? So it is this very creepy looking woman thing. But she was it's basically a piece of art that somebody made and it's in a gallery somewhere. And someone decided to just take it and pretend and send a rumor around that it was telling kids to do things like kill themselves.
What?
Yeah, but it was not true.
But it wasn't true.
No, it's not true at all. It's just a rumor that, of course, then some local news stations pick it up. They tell the parents to look out for this Momo. So then the parents freak out because you know what parents do in our generation. Yeah. They freak out. And then they tell all the parents they know to watch out for this Momo. So then it really just goes off the deep
end. The artist must be very excited about this.
No, except I don't think she got credit for it.
Oh my God.
So that's the story of Momo.
She needs to do a podcast, or she needs to do a tour, a press tour.
But I think that came and went in like a week, didn't it?
When we moved to, it was, I just heard it. Do you remember when I moved to LA, there was a thing that went around. This is again before internet or smartphones. It was before smartphones, where there was a fax sent out to all the businesses that said, that basically says there is a gang ritual tonight. And what they'll do is they'll ride around in cars with their lights off. And if you flash your lights at them to tell them your lights are off, they'll follow that car and kill that person. They'll have a young gang member kill that person. And it was very freaky. I remember calling my sister and be like, don't flash your lights at anyone. And
same thing.
Now that wouldn't be, I'm surprised Momo has got as far as it did.
Yeah. Because it doesn't take long because it's middle school kids, especially, I think.
Yeah.
Or like, you said your daughter is 9?
She's 9. She didn't tell me about it. Somebody else told me about it. And then one other person told me about it, added the kill yourself thing. And then I hadn't heard about it too much else. So I guess it didn't get as much traction. I mean, it got to me.
It got to you, and it got to me too.
Got to your kid.
But what happened with my 10-year-old was that it was all the kids who were talking about it. It wasn't the parents. So it was the middle school. He's in 5th grade. He just started middle school. Mm-hmm. So it was like the kids.
And he understood like somebody was trying to start a rumor.
No, he didn't understand it was a rumor. He was just, this is freaky. It comes up in the middle of YouTube videos.
But
this
he never
image.
did. It never happened to him.
No, of course not, because it doesn't happen. Because it doesn't actually happen.
So he just then showed you, Googled Momo and showed you the image.
Or I probably Googled it. I said, hold on,
Momo.
Let me just open my computer and get to the bottom of this right now. So you have a daughter who's 9. And how old is your other?
9, almost 10. My other one, my son just turned 7.
That's nice.
Yeah, you have a 10 and a...
I have a 10 and a 16 and a 19.
Oh, wow. You're on the last of the crew.
So I'll explain it this way, the last of the crew. So last night, I'm sleeping and he comes in and tells me, I feel really sick. I just took my temperature and it's like 100.9 or something in one ear and like 99 or something in the other ear. So I was so tired and I was like, I just felt his forehead. I'm like, you feel fine. He's like, no, I think it's because you're hot and I feel cold. I said, all right, just go and take a Tylenol. So he goes and gets himself. He said, Mom, just one? I said, yeah, just one Tylenol. I was like, the people are going to come in right now and like handcuff me and take me away. But that's the situation with the 10-year-old.
It's good.
The number 3.
They'll make it. They'll survive. That's all you know now.
At least he knows how to take care of himself.
My first kid, I took him when we were living out here. I took her to the hospital once for like a 99.7 degree fever. The doctor was like, "What are you doing? Do you not know what aspirin?" I was like, "All right, no, I can do that, but she's not dying or anything?"
Wait, because it was too low, you mean? You were like, I think it's 98.6. That's supposed to be?
No, it was 90. What did I say?
Oh, I thought you said 97, 99.7.
99.7. Yeah. It was like almost 100. And I was like freaking out. And now my second kid, he's like 104. He's fine.
All right. But that's how it is.
So you have two older sons, or
no? I have a daughter. So my oldest is a girl.
Okay,
like you. Okay. And then I had a son 2.5 years later. Uh-huh. And then a little relaxation period.
And she's in 5th grade. The younger daughter.
No, it's a he.
Oh, the he is. Okay.
So I have a girl who's 19.
How was her middle school experience?
So her middle school was all right. Like, considering. It was all right. But that's that age with girls that you have to watch out for them. Because it's I mean,
about to go through it.
That's why we're not moving
out here. I'm working here, and they're back in LA. And I would totally take him. I mean, I hate being away from him, but she's, in a good place. She's got her friends. She's got a situation. We know we're close with all the families, and so I'm hoping that but I'm not worried exactly, but I just know it gets weird, and I'm very sensitive to it. Like, I don't want, she's my first child, you know how you are with your first kid. It's like everything she goes through, I feel tenfold. And so, so I'm worried. So I'm talking to a lot of people just about that experience and stuff like that. But.
So when you say you're sensitive, is it that you're sensitive just period? You're a sensitive person, or that because you were saying because she's your first?
She's my first, and for whatever reason, I'm intensely locked onto her, and maybe a little bit of an overparenter at times with her, because I want to make sure everything is going all right. And so I will reach out to other parents and, connect and just try. I have this feeling that we're all doing this together. Unfortunately, I found the class that we're in, are pretty like-minded in that sense, that we're like, not trying to, that we all think we all have doubts about our own parenting skills and our own ability to, do the right thing. And we're all just trying to be in it for each other too. And that's all great. But now, 5th grade, she's already like, she knows not to tell me certain things, which is bad. I've done too much, so I've got to back off, but it doesn't make me any less, focused on it, or now I'm just a creeper. I just watch from like down the hallway. I'm like, I don't know, that one girl's being nice to her. I'm not sure. But
I know, it's really hard.
It's tough, man. It's tough. Yeah.
And I mean, I can tell you that after having gone through it, especially with my daughter, like in the end, you realize that they do make it. And even the tough times that they go through, they do, this already, like fundamentally, even though maybe you forgot for a time period, that those hardships actually make you stronger. They do. And they build character, and they teach you for later, because, the new term now is a snowplow parent. Do you hear this at all? So it's like, first it was helicopter parents, like hovering over everything. Sure. And now it's a snowplow parent trying to clear the way so that there are no obstacles.
College admissions.
Right. Yeah, exactly. College admissions. That exemplifies it.
That's what that's what I'm afraid of being. But then you also have a weird stat of like teenage suicide going up insanely over the last 7 years.
I feel like, what that's about? I'm no expert. Like, I don't know, but I feel like a lot of that has to do with, I think you're going to think that I'm going to say social media, but I'm not. I'm going to say actually like the college admissions. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but I can tell you what I saw my daughter go through with college admissions. And it is the new concern for teenagers. That's everything now.
Can I swear?
Bizarre. Please.
Yeah. I could quietly swear it. I don't want to do it out loud. Oh wow, yeah. I've been hearing a lot about that, and I've been thinking about it because, I'm friends with Felicity, and I think I can totally see myself accidentally getting in a way where I'm like, my kid's not good at testing, and screw that. She wants to go to now. She's going to start out life thinking she's not good enough because she's bad at this thing and not be accepted to the school that her friends are being accepted to. And that's how she's going to start the world. And maybe I'll just pay. I hope that I would have the wherewithal to be like, no, I need my kid to understand the way the world works and stuff. But I can also understand how you get caught up in trying to protect your kid. And so I have been thinking about that college thing a lot. And like both me and my wife, I didn't go to college. My wife went for a few years, but neither of us were, super, good at school or interested in spending too much time on it, honestly. And so my family, my mom didn't go to college, and she's who raised me. So there wasn't a real legacy of higher education in my upbringing. And so I don't know where I stand with it, but I do know that when my kids are going to start hearing about it, when all their friends are doing, and they start, my daughter said the other day, she's like, even if I can even get into a college, I was like, what? I didn't even know that was a thing when I was a kid.
That's why I'm telling you, it's this, that, now it's everything.
It's very interesting.
But you can see, I guess that's the effect of it. And you could see also from all of us trying to protect and feel like we want our kids to feel good. We want them to feel confident, and we want them to have a good start. But then you realize that's how we become snowplow parents, right? And I'm not really calling myself one, but I know I get it, and I can see how it, in certain ways, I'm sure I am. And in certain ways, I really tried not to be. But then you see later that's actually more beneficial to show them that there are all kinds of icy patches and like bumps in the pavement. And you need to help them spot them and get around them, because that's what they're going to have in their life.
Yeah, manufactured hardships. Well, that's part of because snowplowing is what parenting is, but it's just sometimes you have to plow the snow in front of them so they have a hardship to get over.
Oh, that's interesting. So you build a little berm?
But you want to build. It's like what I used to do when they were very young. I'd follow my daughter around when she was 2 in the street doing whatever. She wouldn't making her think she was alone, but I'd be there watching her. I don't want anything bad to happen to her, but I want her to feel like she can handle the world. I don't know. The whole thing is a weird manipulation, even with how I lie to my kids in some ways and how I really see the world. I don't need them to know I don't need them to be tarnished with my cynicism necessarily. But yeah, for sure, it's not, the good version of it is parenting, it's not, I see what you're saying. Like snowplowing in general is maybe not the best parenting, but there's a real sense of that right now of like, I want to create a certain perfect situation so that they're resilient, that they've got grit, that they're tough, that they deal with stuff. I don't want to be in the way of that. I just want to make sure it's not going to cause, serious mental stuff that stays with them their whole lives, because I think we come from a generation maybe of people who really attribute a lot of challenges to what they went through as a child.
Right. We were all coming home and watching John Hughes movies.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody even cared.
Yeah.
Right. We were unlocking our own doors, completely. Our own houses.
Yeah, completely. It's a different time for sure for that.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? I see you deep in thought.
No, I was just waiting I felt like the conversation was going to go into the next moment. Okay. And I just didn't know if I should look away and let you attribute, or are we done with that? I don't know. I've been on doing these shows all day where it's like real quick transitions. And so it's not real conversation. So I was in a moment where I was like, all right, do I need to wait for a transition to happen here? No, but this is just a conversation. It's much easier. I'm
so interested in your experience of this. I really am. Yeah. It fascinates me because I only get it from my perspective. And I know this is one of my obsessions. I'm always like, what is it like for the person in the other chair, like in front of me or next to me or whatever you want to call it. And I know that my interviews are not like this. This is a conversation. This is not a regular thing.
Yeah, very different than the rest I've done today.
And then every single one.
Yeah.
So they're quickie, little snippets.
Yeah, these were all really cheery. Like I walked into one and there was a reality star and really happy interviewers, and it's hey in there. And while they ask you a question, and then they look down while you're answering to what their next question is, and you're trying to get through it real fast and. I'm way too old for it. So I'm trying to get up the energy, but
So you're performing really?
Yeah. I mean, badly. I'm not I'm just trying to get through. I'm just trying to find a period in my sentence because I'm a rambler. So in these things, I've trained myself to look for the soonest period you can find.
Right.
And hit it.
So this is a Rambler's perfect
This is
atmosphere.
Great for me, yeah.
And in fact, I want rambling.
Yeah.
Because without it, it's not real. I don't like it if somebody really is expecting me to just ask them the questions and look for the next one, then ask them the next question.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's how I can get to know you anyway. And I really that's my goal is to get to know you, actually.
Yeah. That's cool.
Not just like a couple of sound bites or something like that.
It's fun. I like it. I'm liking the microphone thing too. It's getting, I'm holding it with my pinky up. I feel like with these two fingers, which is strange. Oh. You're doing a more fisted kind of thing. Yeah,
that feels a little heavy for me to do
it
two
does,
fingers.
but there's a nice balance you kind of get going. That's kind of fun to get it going, but you get used to this.
Yeah, so it's a totally different experience now. You're leaning into the mic.
Would you rather be in a booth that has like an arm?
No. So I've done that before.
Yeah.
So in something like that, I went a couple times. I've gone into an actual studio. The headphones, I don't like them.
Headphones are bad, yeah.
Do you like them?
I don't. I like to listen to them because they're fun, but they make me self-conscious, and it's probably not as good of an interview. And
yeah, for me, I feel like the more equipment, that again, it's a barrier between me and you and our real moment.
Yeah.
Then it feels even more fake. So
Yeah.
I had one once where this microphone was like hanging down like in front of my face, and I was trying to talk to somebody like this. I'm like, this is weird, not good. But
yeah, it never really works for me either. I always want it to be, but that's probably, it's also because you're in a strange booth and this person has got it all. This is nice because we're both slightly awkward with this microphone. We're like equally awkward in a situation, whereas the other one, you're in a situation where they're super comfortable in.
That's true.
Do you do this in here a lot?
I do. So I do in here a lot, but I go all over. Like sometimes I'll go to somebody's apartment and I'll sit down in their living room with them.
Cool.
So, or other times.
How long have you been doing this?
So I've been doing this 2 years almost.
Very cool.
In May, it'll be 2 years.
And how did it come about?
So you want the whole story?
Yeah.
I was a therapist.
Okay.
And I started writing just kind of on the side. Mm-hmm. And then somehow I got into writing about entertainment actors I started interviewing. And I liked it because it was like deep dive profiles that I would start doing.
Right.
And then, the whole media industry was changing. Mm-hmm. Magazines were closing.
Right.
To put it simply. Yeah. So I had to figure something else out. And it was really never about the writing for me anyway. So I came home from an interview one day. I was writing a piece for the New York Times, Sunday routine. Every Sunday, the Times has a little column, and it's somebody who lives in New York and what they do on a typical Sunday. So I was doing it with Tim Gunn. Do you know him from Project Runway? Mm. And I was at his place, and we had so much to talk about. 3 hours later, I could fit 200 words or something of what he said. And I was like, it's such a shame, all this good conversation. And my husband had been a podcast listener then. He's like, you need to start a podcast. And
that's how it started. You just started doing it on your own, getting interviews where you could with people you knew, and then built a thing. And
that's exactly right.
That's cool.
I taught myself, the technical thing is still tough for me. I did figure out the microphones needed to change.
Yeah.
But
you got a little camera facing the ground over there. What's
after.
That?
We're going to pull that up and we'll do just a little 5-minute video.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that will post on YouTube, and it just shows people that we're here. We have a big interview. Uh-huh. No, not that it was real. That too, though.
That's it. But it was like a little bit of PR, a little press.
It's promotion. Exactly. So here's this. Like it? You can listen to the whole conversation. Also, I'll post little clips on social media.
That's cool.
Guess who my guest is?
How many episodes have you done?
It's on 70 something now, I think.
Right.
I think so.
Cool.
So,
I like it.
I interview people who I want to interview.
Yeah,
How about
that? I like that.
So
I want to do that. That's cool.
Do you want to do that?
How much for this whole operation you got going here?
This was probably $300 or $400.
Mics are
100 each.
100 each.
Maybe 120 each or something like that.
$600 you're in.
Yeah, but then there's a little more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah.
So you could probably
have to edit it and shit like that. You don't do that.
Do what? Editing?
Edit it?
I do the editing.
You do it yourself? You have to listen to yourself and edit it? That sounds exhausting.
Okay. So yes and no. You really want to know the nitty gritty here? So I like to put I have interns. So I have 3 interns. Actually, I just got a 4th. So I do have help. So, but it's a lot of work. But the hardest thing is getting the word out, promoting it, and staying on top of everything.
Yeah. Sure.
So, but what you could do is you could start the podcast for yourself and then you hire like a couple of people and then you just do, what is it you would want to do? The interviewing? Is this the part that you like?
Well, I like to talk to people that live lives that I don't understand. You know, like last week I was talking to somebody about, he lived on an Indian reservation and I don't know shit about any reservations, really what it's like to live on an Indian reservation. So I'd enjoy going and having those conversations, stuff like that.
Yep. Then you would enjoy this. That's me. If I could just sit down every day and just have conversations like this, that would be a dream for me.
Yeah. Sure. You need a producer. You don't have a producer? You're your producer.
No,
right?
Because you need money to hire a producer.
But you guys are doing well now, I feel like. I see you're
doing well, but not well.
Not well enough. It's still a business that's,
It's finding its place, I guess you would say, because probably the top 2% of podcasts are the only ones making any decent money.
Because they're all free.
They're all free. And I really think this is the problem, is that we're all giving everybody the content for free because nobody wants to pay for it. But really, everyone
stops.
But I just started thinking about this like 2 weeks ago. I feel like what this is it's like it's like TV shows. We're just giving it to Netflix or we're giving it to NBC. That's not how it works. Sorry, CBS. That's not how it works. They pay for content and then they are the ones who worry about making money.
It's 99 cents a podcast. I think that's for the entire
Nobody wants to buy it. Nobody wants to buy it.
But if you all got together.
If we all did, but we're not. That's not the whole.
Well, the top 3 aren't going to do it.
But the message to podcasters is get your content out there to everybody who will listen to it. It's to your benefit. Make it free. Yep. So all podcasters hear that.
For sure.
And that's what's going on. But like now it's Spotify just got into the game. And Spotify charges people for their service.
Right. So if you listen to their podcasts, they're going to have podcasts?
They just started having podcasts. So you can listen to Really Famous on Spotify.
You said that louder, all into the mic.
Did I? Oh, no, I performed. The one thing I told you I don't like.
Diaphragm came into it. Yeah, okay. Oh, that could help. Because streaming is really starting to, although I'm sure they're going to be like, hey, they get it for free elsewhere. We're not going to pay you a bunch.
Now, they have paid a couple of people. Like, I think they paid maybe Amy Schumer to do a show exclusive on Spotify. So they have done that for a couple of people. But I do think at some point, that's what it's going to be about, is we will sell our content to places like the Netflix type place or Spotify. And then Spotify can do whatever terms it wants. Now you're learning a lot more about podcasting than you expected. I like this,
because I've been thinking a lot about it. It was my stepmom is an amazing artist, and she's had an insane life, incredible life, and years ago I was going to write a movie about it when I was just young, and then that went away, but. I really want to tell her story at least a little bit. And I was thinking, maybe I can do it. Just we talk to each other. It's the easiest way to get a story out in the world. I don't have to sit down and write anything. And so I was thinking we're going there next week. So I have an email in my drafts, like asking her if we could have a sit down and talk about it. And so I'm interested in the possibility of that. So that's why I don't know. My point is, I don't know. My point is I was listening to this story, crazy Root of Evil thing. Root of Evil. It's a crazy podcast about the guy who killed the Black Dahlia.
Wait, I just saw that show about that.
Yeah, I Am the Night, I guess, is about that story.
Yeah, too. I Am the Night, right. Because Yul Vasquez, I had him on the show, and he was in I Am the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that reminded me of, so I was thinking, I could see my stepmom's story told in a
what is her story?
In a story of that, where I'll have to let her tell it. I can't even go into it.
Yeah, so you don't have the what do they call it, log line or something?
No, I guess I don't feel comfortable saying it. Without talking to her.
We'll have to see it unfold, or hear it unfold. Maybe on a podcast.
Maybe not. But I think also it's like I'm feeling very creatively unproductive over the last, and you go through shifts as a creative person but I kind of suspected that I was pretty fruitful during my Law and Order time. And I kind of suspected being on a procedural again, which only allows for a certain amount of creativity as an actor, given the nature of what's important, the priorities of the storytelling, that I would be able to, I would be driven to allow myself to be productive creatively elsewhere. And for some reason, I'm not right now. It could be because I'm traveling back and forth. My family's back there, and maybe the traveling's wearing me. But there's a number of different elements that could be. I feel like I need something a little bit more that can stay in my head less a time. You know, I did an album back then, and I've written scripts and stuff and all that stuff kind of stays. Music not so much, but it still stays in your head. This seems like a very immediate way to get stuff out. Things are getting caught in my protective area of what's the word of, you know, where I'm monitoring myself and judging my own output.
Oh, so you're being your own critic, like a self-critic.
Yeah. And it keeps getting caught and stuff. So there's the flow is really frustratingly not. So I just feel like. But it's
specifically this one project that you're talking about, or is it just generally a lot of things, like creative things you're thinking of?
You're not on the project itself. The project itself that becomes more of like not a craft, but like kind of just like a skill as opposed to you're not creating something new.
Okay.
But on some acting jobs, you'll have a desire to be creating something new. And then that is I have an appetite for that. A lot of creative people have an appetite for that, to do something that feels like unique and new and something surprising. And that's such a strong desire within me, or has been for most of my life, that when I'm on a show like this, I have to get it elsewhere because it doesn't come.
Right, because it doesn't satisfy that.
Yeah. And
so you thought it would pop right back up when you started. Right up,
and I'm not, and I, for some reason I can't, I'm not having, it's just a lot of the ideas are not, and it could be because I'm 44 now, my kids are 10, and I'm coming to a different part of my life where things don't mean the same as they used to. Music doesn't mean the same. You know, art doesn't mean the same. Things aren't as important or immortal or lasting. So it might be that I just have to find a more spiritual sort of angle on it because I'm in a different state of my life. But I guess that's why the podcast thing came up, is I was like, I still have a desire to get stuff out, but it keeps stopping up in me.
Right. Well, it could just be, because we all have like ebbs and flows or different phases. Totally. And it doesn't mean, so you thought this would be the, like the foundation or whatever. So if you were back in this atmosphere again, then it would happen again. But it may not necessarily be because of that you felt that way when you were on Law and Order.
That's
right.
True
it
too.
Could have been other things that were going on for you.
That's true too. I was having kids for the first time. I was starting a relationship. Yeah. You're very right about that. You're very right about that.
Yeah, but now I can see...
It's an interesting time, though, when your kids are this age, right? Because life is about them. Like, your life is way less important.
Yes.
Mine is way less important. Until I had kids, I had a feeling like my parents, my ancestors worked so I could have this time. So I've got to enjoy it and live it for my own experience. And now suddenly, as soon as my kids were here, it changed to something else.
I think it's interesting. I do agree with you. And I think that now I'm starting to come out of that for the first time, but I was in it for a long time. And it's funny because I'm starting to find myself shifting a lot now. And I wasn't really expecting that. You feel like, oh, you're already like, once you're in your 40s or whatever, you know yourself by now. But
so you're coming out of it, so maybe because your kids are a little older?
Yeah, no, definitely because they are. There's that. But I feel as though I'm starting to remember pieces of myself that I had forgotten for a while that were always there. So it's almost like, I don't know if it's this phase of my life that my daughter just started college. I still have a 10-year-old, but still. Or if it's the fact that I'm not sure, or what I'm doing now with the podcast that brings me back to a lot of these things that I really started as. It's hard to explain. I really just started thinking about this stuff myself, like in the recent weeks.
It's good though. It's exciting for me to hear because I wonder what it's going to be like. Right now, I'm just trying to manage it. Yeah. Because my kids are at a place where you just hope that they become people that can like handle themselves.
Right. You want them to be capable. You want them to be able to step over a little snowbank or whatever. Yeah. But it's true that like it's so easy to see that they are everything, right? They are the priority. As long as they're okay, life is okay. Yeah. Right? Is that where you kind of are now?
Times I had a moment of fear because it's so like, you know, this stuff is always stupid. I'm not a big enough actor to ever get into like the headlines, fortunately, but every now and then I'll say something that, well, like last time did some interview and was talking about how actors in Law and Order would come through. There were so many great actors, and I was talking about one that really made an emphasis on me was Adam Driver. Who's
I just read it the other day when I was researching it.
And I was like, I talked for a while about how impressive he was and interesting, and he was this strange dude who was like came in, he had something going on. And then the headline was Jeremy Sisto says Adam Driver is weird.
Come on.
That's not what I said at all. Not that he cares, but I just thought, like, I wondered if anything I said about the college admissions thing, I was going to get in trouble for it.
Well, first of all, nothing would be pulled. You can be rest assured that nothing would be pulled out of context here,
right?
Because our whole conversation is going to be here,
right? They can go listen to it, even if it is a headline. They can go listen to it.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a headline created by anybody on my team.
No, yeah. But they still take shit from wherever. It's not a radio show. They can be like, Jeremy Sisto wishes he could pay for his kids. I don't know what they would say.
But that's what I realized that too, that I remember I told you that I'm really obsessed with figuring out how it is to be in your shoes on the other side of me.
Right.
Like I understand that too, that you have to worry about things like that I don't have to. You don't know me. So how do you know I'm not going to? What?
These days especially.
Yeah, these days especially. So it's like I try to think to myself, because I'm not like that. And so I automatically kind of assume that people will know that about me, that you can trust me because you can.
It's not you.
I know, and I get that.
It's not you. I'm inherently trusting and can shoot, I'll say I have a lot, but there's also a lot I could say that could be taken out of context that as anyone, if you're talking honestly about stuff. So there is that element of like, don't get too comfortable. And I'm not big enough to really worry about this, but somebody who's really in the limelight in that way, you got to be constantly on edge. And sometimes you see these actors who are older and who finally given up and they just come out and say some shit they just don't. Who came out recently? It was like, I don't know if those with Michael Jackson. Like, I don't know if those kids were dead, but they did fine. They went on and got a good career. He's doing great.
Who was that? Was that Barbara Streisand or somebody? I feel like it might have been. Maybe it
felt like they were just at the end of like watching what they say.
I was at this thing last week. It was this like panel discussion. I'm not a big fan of panel discussions, but I was there. And Richard Kind, do you know who he is?
Yeah.
He was on the panel. And so in the middle of it's this discussion, I think, about like gender and diversity in storytelling or something like that. And he raises his hand to say something. He's just like, I know we were already given the questions in advance, so I just want to say this. So first of all, the public relations people were like, no, Richard, what are you saying that for? But then he came out and he just said, I think the writer's room is safe and blah, 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 blah. And he was just being himself. He was just saying what he felt like he wanted to say. And I'm like, I applaud him for being able to say what he wants to say, Nobody picked it up as a problem. It was fine.
Well, it's like, again, it's nice to be in a place where people don't care too much about it. To be a working actor,
right.
I'm not even on the poster. It's great. I'm like, this is a perfect, because man, it's to be out there and be constantly worried about how people are going to perceive you that's hard to do.
But you kind of have some of that. I mean, you've had some of that for a long time.
I mean, I've been in it for a long time, and for sure, obviously I have these moments now when I'm talking to you where I'm like, wait, did I just do something bad? But I mean, nothing's like that's ever happened to me besides Adam Driver is weird.
Right. And that's really not. The only reason I even saw that is because it was you clarifying it. The Adam Driver thing didn't come up. It was just like you wanted to just make it clear or something. I was just like, what did you want to make clear? Because I hadn't read it.
Oh, you just probably saw it on my Twitter feed.
Exactly. I probably saw it on your Twitter feed. Right.
Yeah, nobody else cared, but I was just like, I made it worse by saying, I don't think I tagged Adam Driver at least. I don't know, maybe I did.
Oh, did
Hey, just in case you didn't see me talk shit about you should check out my interview.
But it's funny because I think I did read actually the article. What was it, page 6 or something like that? Whatever it was.
It was.
Was it?
It was something like that. But it was this panel thing with Dick Wolf and a bunch of people at the Y2K, not Y2K, some YMCA that's really fancy up on the Upper West Side.
Oh, the 92nd Street Y? Yeah. Okay.
So whatever, college admissions thing, I just want everyone to know that I feel however you want me to feel about it. That's exactly how I feel. Completely inoffensive about everything. I'm not good at being in the limelight.
Just for the record.
Yeah. And listen, if it does, I know, at the end of the day, it's I've got to have faith that I'm not a bad person. It's just like when you're in this situation, any kind of inner feelings of fear of being, I think that as an actor, maybe there's a sense of being a fraud I've always had. You do this weird job where then they go and edit it together and make it something that it wasn't when you were doing it. And so there's this sense of being afraid of I don't know. It's a weird, convoluted sort of idea, but there's something about being a fraud in my makeup for having been an actor for so long. And anyway,
that you feel like people will perceive you as a fraud, or that you are a fraud?
I think that that I'm. I guess maybe it's more like there's a version of maybe it's also that I'm a work in progress. Feel like that's just who I am. I'm always trying to figure out how I feel about things, and sometimes I work them out as I speak. And so that's kind of a dangerous place to be when you're in a public realm. I don't know how politicians do it, but you have to be somebody who's very practiced at that, I suppose, to be in that world. But that's yeah. I have no idea what I'm saying right now. I'm rambling. I'm gonna need you to.
You know what I feel like? I feel like you are. Now I'm already losing what I was going to say, but I do think that. You're just like you have feelings and emotions, and you're not afraid to have them and talk about them, which is a good thing to me. Not a fraud. So actually, the opposite of being a fraud.
I'm an unfraud.
You're a true. What is a fraud? What is an unfraud? What is that word?
I'm authentic.
You're authentic.
I do have a pull towards authenticity.
Please. And I have to tell you, that's my whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. To me, it's a frustration when somebody and I think it's easier for actors to be this way, feel like they need to entertain or perform or like come across a certain way. And that's a little harder for me because as a therapist, I'm all about, hey, share what's really, who are you? I'm interested. That's
I feel
real.
like something just because of what this podcast is. Something happened there with me in this conversation a little while ago where I had just a moment of like, I don't know exactly what happened. Like emotionally, I was became afraid of something. Well, maybe it was because I was being revealed about I said something wrong there. But there was just a moment that's kind of interesting in this conversation that I kind of, I'm not sure what exactly happened. So.
Can we figure it out? I think we should figure it out. So do you remember
talk about?
The moment that happened? Was it when you said, I just thought I'm going to be afraid. Did I say something wrong?
It has to do with shame. Something about shame is there was some personal thing that happened that I don't know what happened. I felt revealed. I think it's something about being revealed. I had a moment of that went from being in control of how I was presenting myself to being afraid of, like a real psychological moment.
So let's trace it back because it's something specific that maybe we don't know. I didn't feel it. Nothing that you said made me think like that. So that's interesting to me. So what was it internally? So
it was all inside my head.
Yeah, but why? What triggered it?
I think it had to do with the college admission thing.
Really? But on a delay?
On delay. Because it went. Remember, I went back and I was like, I hope I didn't say something wrong.
Yeah. So let's dig a little bit.
Yeah.
So what is it about the college that the whole college thing that you felt? What?
Maybe the parenting bit. Parenting, I'm so passionate about. I'm so worried that I'm not doing a good enough job on that. I can't imagine what it was like for Felicity right now. Like to be villainized. And I completely understand how wrong it is and how unfair it is. But to be villainized for something that is misguided and comes from a very human place of wanting to take care of someone else. It's something in that I feel strongly about, and I feel my heart goes out to her. And yet, at the same time, I'm afraid of being attached to the wrong side of an argument. I'm afraid to be the target of people. I think it might have had to do with that. I think we're in a time right now where there's a tendency towards really attacking and being really vicious and enjoying it and having this mob mentality of like, get him, let's get him. And I had a rough childhood when I was real young. I come from a really hard life when I was really young. And I was in a really dark, crazy place for a young person to be in. So I have at the root of me a fear of that mentality. It was a gang mentality thing that I was the victim of. And so it connects to me very much that this idea of a group of people, in order to save themselves, in order to secure their own survival, attach themselves to an aggressive attack of someone else. And so I just feel like that's what's going on in the world so much right now. I feel like it's so heated. Maybe it's always been like this and I've been blind to it.
No. I think it's much worse now. I think it's got to be much
politically
worse.
With the partisan thing and
yeah, it's really
just
such a negative place, really. Can we back up though a second? Because what can you tell me about what happened when you were a child?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I've never really talked about it. I should at some point, but it's because it makes me who I am, and I'm not ashamed of it. Obviously, I was 4 and 5, and but I'm also. It's scary to talk about that kind of stuff. It is. It's scary to talk about that stuff, because once you know it about someone, once you know someone's been through something like that, I would tell you, you don't look at them the same. And a side of me really wants, I've always had I like people to understand that about me if we're close to some degree, but to speak it to the world, I mean, I'm pulled on it. Yeah. Part of me is like, I want other people who have been through stuff to look at me as some kind of inspiration, but also I don't look myself as an inspiration. So it's not like that's something that but
have you talked about it with?
It like also makes you a target. What's that? Have
you talked to like close people you're close with about it? So it's not like you've never talked about it, but it's a fine line. I know there are worries about if I said something, and then I get it. Yeah.
I mean, it's just that I've never really spoken about it to anyone who would,
have you been thinking about talking about it? Because it sounds like you maybe have. Because I'm not saying this.
There was a few years ago I was, but
only because it hasn't
been on my mind very in the front of my mind. But when I was having kids, it very much was. It was, which tends to happen. I was very much kind of taking stock of what I had been through, how I saw it, how I needed to see it in order to now try to raise kids. And so there was a point, I remember I was at some TV critics thing and I was talking to some reporter and I was like, I really want to talk about something. I was like, maybe I'll call you in a couple of years. Every time I saw him for the next 3 years, he's like, can you talk about it?
And you were like putting on your glasses.
No, I can't. I think it's going back in. I can't.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a little feedback. I think that's what it is that came up for you. I don't know what it is, but I think that it's because you were talking about being a parent, and we were talking about, do you remember I said something like, at this age, with the kids the ages that they are now, for you, it's like very clear that everything is about protecting them. Yeah. And then you were talking about, I feel like I'm sort of getting a little picture now, but because I feel like you were talking about protecting them and like not wanting them to have an experience that's so troubling.
Right.
So I think that's it.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's really what it was. I went through something.
Yep.
That was a real traumatic, that an adult should have been there to make sure that
didn't happen.
You can't just let a kid, they'll get better from it. Because I've always looked at it like, I've surviving it every day. It's not something that has made me stronger. Like I would have been awesome if it hadn't happened. That's really how my view is. It's not like, because of that, it's made me who I am.
But that explains everything on why you would feel like maybe it is better to be a snowplow.
Totally.
Yes, of course. And that also would be like, not just are you friends with Felicity, but why that would set off a little bit of a nerve for you, or touch a nerve, because it's not just about the public either, but it's about whatever it is protecting. She's trying to protect her daughters, or whatever. She was trying to do something, just being a good parent was probably her motivation, right?
Completely.
So then for you, that also ties into whatever went on and whatever you feel for yourself as a parent and as a child.
Totally.
And that's probably why you felt that way in the middle of this conversation. That's my analysis.
I think that's pretty good. That said, it comes into everything to some degree.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's that is definitely that's a clear way of looking at it. But you know, it's so much about who I am. You know, those early years are so integral to sort of who you become, and they're just living in my DNA. So it's funny when sometimes I'll be in a situation, a conversation, and that's why you're obviously a good therapist, because you have to track it back. That's what I learned in therapy. Is like there was a period where whenever I would have certain. So when I was getting married, I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get married? I've been single for a long time. Being single was something that I was able to turn to when I was feeling insecure. And so whenever I had an inclination to want to be single, if you can paint that picture, I would always be like, I learned that, okay, I've got to track it back. And I track it back minute to minute over the last hour and a half.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And I'd be like, that thing that guy said about that, I think that might have made me feel like that little kid that I was back when I was, made me feel insecure about this. And then as soon as I realized that, I didn't have that single inclination anymore.
That's very powerful.
It's good therapy.
And that's a therapy tool.
Completely.
And that the fact that you were applying, and you did it here too.
Yeah, you did it for me. Yeah.
No, you did.
Yeah.
You identified that something happened in our conversation where suddenly you felt fearful.
Yeah.
So you identified that.
Something triggered something.
Something triggered something.
Mm-hmm.
So you were able to say, that's really the first thing that I would teach somebody in therapy is you have to look out for the triggers, for the signs.
Right.
So it might be something you're feeling inside of yourself. So you're not hiding from that, which is really good.
Yeah.
You're spotting the trigger.
Yeah.
And then it takes a little work, which is kind of what we did together, was going back to figure out what that was about. But that is a good sign that you've had some good therapy.
It is,
honestly.
Yeah. This feels like at the end of a therapy session.
Yeah.
You walk out feeling kind of naked and I remember I used to leave my therapy session and I used to see this older actor who I won't name, who was obviously at the therapy building. We'd worked together before. On our way out, we'd always be kind of avoid each other's gaze.
See, that's something I too, right. It's the same kind of thing, but I don't want you leaving here feeling vulnerable in a way, you know what I mean? But I think that it is the same kind of thing where you actually get something out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel weird. I mean, about people seeing this whole conversation. It feels vulnerable and kind of strange. But the interesting thing is, as an actor, I want that. I want to do things that I feel like I've revealed things about myself that were difficult to reveal. But in truth, it's always with somebody else's words and somebody else's another story. So I'm not very practiced at what this is, which is, and yet I have I have an inclination towards it. I have an inclination towards telling my own story and being, an advocate of my own kind of experience and putting that out there, but I'm not practiced at it. So I probably will feel vulnerable when I leave, but I don't think I think it's probably interesting.
I think it's interesting too. I mean, because you're a human being and we all have experiences like this. So I think anytime you hear somebody else's real experience, that's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. That experience of the real person that is more intimate and more interesting for people because they can see themselves in you too. Yeah. And that is what they do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. And that's not what it feels like.
I know. But that is the experience of the listener. is feeling seen. Yes, I feel this person.
It's also as a man, but as anyone, revealing something as kind of personal as that. I feel like, there's going to be a sense of like, I don't want to hear about it. You know what I mean? Like that's your that kind of just, and that's probably other stuff that's gone on, but it's but you're probably right. Most people that would listen to it are going to have their own connection to their own sort of trials and the stuff they've been through and connect to it, And that's that's the human experience. But also people who are listening to this kind of conversation that's true.
Are not going to be the type to be like, why are you telling us this?
Right.
Just the opposite.
Right. Now, if I brought it up on bubble.com or whatever I was just on, that would have been a wholly different reaction. And I kind of wish I had, because that would have been awesome right after the reality star. That would have been great.
What was the reality star? Do you even know? I
don't know who she was. She was fun, but she was like, she was talking about her reality things, her reality show. And we'll do whatever for money, and just making jokes and like, there's a lot of drama in my family, this kind of stuff, even when the cameras aren't rolling. And then she's like, so what else are you up to? She's like, well, I just finished a film with Pacino. And I was like, this is where we are in the world. I don't know. I got to stop. I don't know what I'm doing, where I am. But she seemed great.
Yes, of course.
Adam Driver's very weird, though. Let me just say that
He's
again.
The weirdest guy ever. For the record. He's certainly not. He's the greatest guy. He's the coolest guy.
I mentioned how much I love.
Right.
I should tell you one bad story just because I want to get this off my chest.
Okay.
And I want everyone to know how awful and accidentally racist I am. I was at the Independent Spirit Awards. This is why they don't let me out of the house. I was at the Independent Spirit Awards when the Big Sick was up for everything and won a bunch of things. This was last year or whatever.
The Big Sick. Yeah.
Big Sick
with Kumail.
Kumail, yeah. So I see Kumail at the bar and I'm like, hey, what's up? And we hug, and he's like, "Yeah, how do I know you?" And I said, "I met you on the set of Big Bang Theory." And he said, "Wrong Indian guy." And I said, "Oh no!" I was like, "No, I love him from the Silicon
Valley,
and I'd seen the Big Sick, and his face is everywhere."
It's like the same thing that you did. We were talking about 16 Candles, but you said
completely
Pretty
understandable,
in Pink.
but awful. So what happened is I was like. But I hugged him and I was like, I saw the big thing. It just came out. And then he's like, no, it's the wrong Indian guy. And I was like, oh my God, no, I love you. He's like, and he was getting his drinks. He's like, I've got to go. It's no big deal. I've got to go. I was like, but please, look, I just want to tell you how much I love. He literally walks away from me. I go back to my chair, sweating profusely. He walks up on stage, receives the next award, and looking down, I'm like, he's definitely he should bring this up right now that he just got mistaken for this as he's getting this award. Oh my God. I soaked through every person's napkin at my table. It was...
Did you see him again after
I
that?
tweeted him like a jackass over and over. I just love this guy. I'm just tweeting. It's probably still on my tweets about how much everyone's like, why does he love this guy suddenly out of nowhere? What a jackass.
I'm dying because
it's awful.
Really, it's just like the Adam Driver story. But like
but worse, way worse. In the moment, just really the worst. Also, like, this is what I mean. This is like a director that just won, right. As an actor.
He's not just the guy in Silicon Valley.
Figure out who the guy is on the huge picture behind you that is like, might give you a job in a year if you don't say he's the guy in the Big Bang Theory.
Wait, but did you really think of the guy on the Big Bang Theory? Were you really thinking of him?
I was so in the moment, and I was in another conversation with somebody who I was with, and I turned around and I guess I did. He just was so familiar to me.
Right. But the reason I'm saying this is because you watched him in Silicon Valley, right?
Uh-huh.
Or no?
Yes, I watched him in Silicon Valley.
Right.
I saw his...
But this is why I'm saying, because I feel like it's the same thing we did before, where we were talking about 16 Candles,
totally.
But calling it Pretty in Pink.
No.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
It was the Big Bang Theory. It was somehow... I think I did somehow connect him to... I don't know. I don't know why I spoke without thinking. I don't know why it just came off so clearly and cleanly. Because I don't...
Are you like that? Are you a little awkward around people just who you don't know generally?
Well, in general, I have real trouble recognizing faces. everybody looks familiar to me. I used to go around and say there's a name for it. There's like where it's like, if your eyes remind me of somebody else's eyes, it's hard for me to put all of your features together to like recognize one, just a weird way of looking at it. So for me as an actor, that's a horrible thing to have because people have the upper hand. They recognize me and I'm got to always put on this face of like, hey, great to see you again or meet you, whichever it is. And so I don't usually let myself be free in this moment like I was with him where I'm like, hey, Big Bang Theory guy. I don't know why I said it so clear. I can't honestly think that there's sometimes a self-sabotage thing that,
do you think? Why?
I just don't know why I would be so, I mean, if I ran into that Big Bang Theory guy who I've met a couple of times, I wouldn't be so clear as to be like, so I don't know why it was so easy for me to put my foot in my mouth in that instance if it wasn't some subconscious wanting to embarrass myself.
You really do like to analyze yourself, but I don't know about that because maybe the excitement of the Independent Spirit Awards.
He says it happens a lot too. I mean,
I know it happens. Yeah. I feel like I heard him say that once, or somebody say that about a similar experience.
I ran into the other guy in Big Bang Theory, and I told him that he's like, oh, that happens to. I'm not sure what the guy in the Big Bang Theory's name is.
I'm not either, and I saw him in a play actually with Jesse Eisenberg once. I forget.
He's really good.
I forgot his name. He was really good, and I remember.
I'm going to tweet about how great all these people are as soon as I'm done. Whose names I don't know, but I've met.
Tag everybody and be like, by the way, we really just.
It's just the headline. Sister's an asshole, and something shitty happened early on.
Well, I sometimes feel like I get really awkward around people sometimes when I don't know who it is, but like when I was talking about this panel that I was at last week, like it was the head of AMC and BBC America and like all these networks and IFC, whatever, the combination of four. And I met her too, and it's people like that who for whatever reason, I guess maybe I feel intimidated or something. But I remember her saying to me like, oh, I really love your pants that you're wearing. And I had these funky like yellow and blue, like big striped pants. I called them the Brady Bunch pants. They remind me of like Peter Brady would wear them or something. Mm-hmm. So I said something like, oh yeah, they're basically just like sweatpants because they're very comfortable. But then I'm like, I thought about it later. I'm like, why on earth would you meet this big top executive and tell her you're wearing sweatpants like George Costanza? It's like not the same thing with the identity, but sometimes you just say things without thinking.
The moment there that is funny, it's interesting. It's just how we also second guess thing, or how we take him so much more seriously than somebody else.
Right.
Like that comment, I'm sure she didn't even acknowledge it. And with you,
right.
like,
you're right.
Maybe my guy acknowledged it a little bit more.
He was looking to chalk this one up.
He's probably still not talking about it like I am. Like it's taken me a year just to confront it.
Or he's waiting to meet you again and call you somebody else.
Right, yeah.
Who would he call you? Do people confuse you with anybody?
Yes, there is somebody. Who is it? I don't know. Maybe there isn't. Isn't there?
I feel like when you smile, you remind me of somebody, and I can't remember who it is though. Like you're reminding me of somebody.
There's a couple weird people that are just sort of on my level of thing that they're like, but I can't remember who it is right now.
Can we talk about 6 Feet Under for a minute?
Yes, let's talk about that for a second.
I'll take you off the hook for a little bit. I'm going to take you off the hook. Give you a little
stuff I've already said.
We'll take a little breather and we'll talk about 6 Feet Under, because that was probably the first time I was exposed to you as an actor, and that was a great show.
Totally.
Oh my God.
So
don't tell me the same things that you've told everybody else.
No, I'll tell you the experience of it though.
Okay.
I went and it was kind of the first, well, maybe that's not true, but it was the first time I was really comfortable with, when I started the business, I'd done movies. I did a slew of movies and only one was successful really, which was Clueless. And then TV actors started to do more movies and stuff. And so eventually I was like, well, I'll start doing TV. And then by like the third year, I was like doing pilot season, which became this awesome, fun thing. You don't have to work on the scenes that much because you have 3 auditions a day. You drive around and you go from one thing to the next. And I started to really enjoy it. But it was, it's hard. So anyway, I tested for 6 Feet Under for the younger brother, for Michael. Is that his name? It was Nate and
And you were talking about Dexter, Michael C. Hall.
Michael's role David, tested for David. And with Josh Hopkins, I believe was they paired us up as a family. They made different families. They tested us.
Okay.
And Josh still apologizes to me for the test screening because he says he messed it up so bad that, but I don't remember that. I just remember the
So you were going to be David.
Yeah. And I didn't get it. But they went with the other family. And, but then, Alan called me and said, I'm thinking about a role. We don't know what's going to become, but it's going to become something interesting. And so I came down and did that one day on the pilot where I was just crying in the background. And then it was, and then it started, and that first season went, and it was just such a fun experience to like get these scripts and be so excited to read them, and then get these scenes that were so weird and so interesting and so where nothing would really happen.
Yeah.
So it was all about like, what can we kind of make happen in this scene? Because the writer allows for so much. We know it's interesting, but there's multiple interpretations of the scene, really written like a play, not written like a thing where you're like, all right, I got to written like it, and so that was great to be on.
I think it was better that you were not David, because you were. What was your character? Amazing. Billy.
I was Billy. Yeah.
Billy. What a character. Come on.
What a cool character.
And you probably took a lot of feelings that you had from your real life, I'm going to say.
For sure, yeah.
I don't know your technique, but I would say that would be a good outlet for it.
For sure, yeah. And it was a very free, I was single for most of those times, so I didn't have anyone to take care. It was now, of course, I look at it in reflection of that, but back then there was a real freeness, and also there was a being like that sized of a role on the show allowed me to not feel what actors tend to feel on shows is kind of trapped and
suffocated.
Yeah, actors on that show, even by the second season, were saying things that were like, well, it's not Shakespeare, and like talking crap about, and as outside as my kid, I was like, are you kidding me?
Wait,
like,
really? About 6 Feet Under?
I was like, it is kind of Shakespeare.
Are you kidding? It is. It was one of the first ones too.
I know. It was
one of the first good shows.
And I won't call, anyone out on, but in general, actors have a tendency to feel, that, but boy, I sure didn't. Oh man, for me, it was, it was just it was a constant, it was also scary, I'd get these scenes that were like,
yeah, because you're playing somebody who you're not used to playing, probably you're not used to seeing anywhere, right?
Yeah.
He was his own guy.
He was, but you kind of felt like you got him.
Yeah,
he was pretty clearly drawn, this rich kid with the therapist parents that had gone to this, but very specific. I don't mean in a bad way, like in generically drawn. I just mean like very specifically kind of composed of these different parts that make up one. Like he was one part pretentious, kind of yuppie-ish sort of thing. One part like kind of artist, striving artist. One part's just child who's just, emotionally cannot get enough love or attention.
I felt that part very strongly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that was the loudest part, I guess. At times, the other parts were there,
or the neediest part, or something.
The other times, the part when things were together, when he was on the right meds, another side would show up. Another. But they didn't feel like different characters. They all felt like this one guy, and it was really cool to. It was really cool to play, and I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. It's just that. I remember at the end of the first season, and we were out to dinner with Alan Ball, and then at a certain point in the conversation, I spaced out and was looking at something or someone, and then I came back into the conversation, and Alan Ball was talking about some people. It seemed like he was talking about his family. He's like, this guy, oh, he's always does this, and he's like always a problem, and it's been really hard. It's been, and I assumed he was talking about his family, but he wasn't. He was talking about the characters in the show, and I was like, wow, okay, this is. this is real. This is like how it should be. You know what I mean? They're living people inside him, and that was really
that is really so cool. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good sign. So, okay, just going to say one more thing about that, and then I'm going to move you as if this is one of those other interviews to the next topic. So I feel like at any moment they're going to come knocking on the door. Yeah. Best finale ever.
Yes.
That's it. That's all I have to say.
I had a black Prius at the time, which Claire was driving out of town, and I used to drive around listening to Sia's Breathe Me, crying just like she did.
That's what it does. I will remember it always.
Every show should end like that. You should cut to every character's death scene and the different increments in their life throughout the rest of their lives that were meaningful, and pass them over with just a whimsical touch and let this life move on.
So good.
So good. I should watch that again.
Yeah. I think I watched it again maybe a year ago or something. I was watching the end of The Americans. Did you watch that?
I've watched a few of them. I got to get into it.
I got really into it, and it ended really nicely. It was probably, I would put it in like second place or something for the best, the way they really wrapped it nicely, and it was emotional and surprising and satisfying and everything. And I just remember at the time thinking back, but 6 Feet Under. And then I did rewatch. It was on Netflix or something.
It holds up.
It does. Nice. It's a little dated, I won't lie, but it still holds up.
Yeah, I think I started to watch a moment of 6 Feet Under, and I was just a little like, you know what? I don't need to.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Just because there's so much out there in the world now that it's like watching a movie from the 50s. You know, you have to put yourself in that place. You can't watch, you know, James Dean and East of Eden and be like, well, a little over the top, you know?
Right. So Suburgatory I have to jump to because I really liked that too.
Good show, right? Yeah.
Did you really honestly like it?
I did. It ended early. And
I was so PO'd. I thought it was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, really good. Emily really shined. The creator. It was really her, you know, her wheelhouse. And she had a few more strong seasons in her. And there was a lot of characters to do. Yeah. It was a lot to go. It was a real shame that it ended early. I mean, there was something about ABC shows that have the music has to be a little too that gets in my personal viewing way. I like the comedy to not be dictated by the music as much. Although the composer is great. I think he's a great musician and stuff in general. I just felt like, God damn it. I'll tweet him afterwards too.
Forget the tweets. You need to send baskets.
Baskets for everybody.
Swag.
You know, but I you know, in general, that was my only in watching them was like, I just wanted it to, but you know, it's network comedy. And so it has to have that kind of rhythm. But I thought the characters were great, super fun to do.
It was really funny. I have to tell you, because I was in that phase when it came out that I had the parents, right? I was in the, you were probably not a parent yet, or maybe, right?
And just a new parent.
Just a new parent. So for me, it was making fun of everything that I lived every day with like parents. And it was very satisfying. Yeah, I was really sad to see that go.
Me too. And just being like working with comedians all day long. Right. You know, that was
Anna Gasteyer was on that with
Anna, Chris Parnell, Alan Tudyk, Cheryl Hines. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Jane was obviously great, but like all those improv artists were just super funny to be around. And yeah, I was a real bummer. That was one that I could have done for 10 years.
Maybe that could be where you put your creative energy right now.
That's out of my hands, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you take it on.
I'm going to steal
your project.
Oh, yeah.
Get it?
No, I don't get it.
No. You could, because now I know it wasn't your show. You were in it, but it wasn't your show. But now people can take a show that's been rejected from a network or whatever, canceled by a network, and then they take it and they sell it to whoever. Right? Like Hulu or something like that.
Yeah.
But you don't need that now anyway, because let's transition to as a regular interviewer
let's see where this thing goes,
to FBI. So it's a pretty good gig right now, right?
Gig, yeah.
So it's steady. You don't have to hold down the whole fort for like the whole hour.
No, it's great. It's a great job. It's and the only downside is my family is staying in.
Yeah. So how does that work? Because you have a lot of episodes you film here.
Yeah, I film them all here, but they're they like you said, it's not it's not the lead of the show, and most of my stuff is on the set, so we can knock out 12 pages a day on the set, and
so what does that mean?
On a good day. That means I just fly back and forth every 4 days or so.
Every 4 days?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was kind of doing this first season.
Wait, so you come here, you stay for 4 days.
Fly back there for 4 days. It's whatever. It's not ever that simple. Yeah. So that could be the reason why creatively I've lost.
That could be.
But people do it every day. But it's usually businessmen or politicians, people who are already dead inside.
Right.
Gift baskets of businesswomen and
Jerry, we have to get some more gift baskets.
To every politician and business person. No, but it is. But it's also, it should be inspiring because airports are great places to people watch, and it's,
They are great places to people watch. People watching to me is one of the greatest things you can do.
Yeah. I got to get rid of my phone now. It gets in the way of people watching.
Yeah.
Just makes me, in moments that I should just be watching, I'll just look down and read some stupid news story that I don't care about at all and doesn't mean anything.
But that's just at the airport, right? Between, like, as you're waiting for a plane. Because when you're on the actual plane, there's not much to see.
Right.
So what do you do during those 5 or 6 hours?
I've been watching some good movies. JetBlue's got some good classics. I've been revisiting some classics. Watched a couple Brando movies, Waterfront and
On the Waterfront.
Yeah, and Streetcar and I just finally saw all 3 of the Before Sunset things.
Oh, love.
So cool.
Yes.
I was really, I don't know. I've been nervous to watch the first one again because
it's a little dated probably.
When I was young, I understood it, but I don't know. Young people, I'm kind of having a disconnect with. I want to watch it again, but I watched the last one, which I was like, totally get. That's right where I am. Mm-hmm. And then I just watched the second one when they meet again after 10 years. Really great. Profoundly interesting to be able to watch these actors as in 3 different ages play the same characters in that setup of just watching people talk, but having an overall arc. It's obviously he's an amazing director and those guys are great, but it is profound because I'm 44 now, when you get to this age, and I'm sure beyond, you start to go back into your life and really connect to, that was that period. The time you don't realize, at the time you're living your every moment, but you look back, you're like, I was just living that period in a human being's thing. And doesn't make it any less profound, but it helps you understand it. And that's what that movie does. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was 9 years apart, I think, each movie, right? So good. And just everything, the dialogue, that's it. Like what you're talking about, just to see these real people having a real conversation. That's kind of what I'm always thinking too. It's it's all about just the real interaction. The third one upset me a little bit. I was like, oh, really? This is where we're going now?
I was the other way. I needed the third one in order to watch the second one.
Wait, you saw the third one before the second one?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I needed to watch it because I wasn't willing to I would have been upset if I watched the second one. Not because I don't have a great marriage. I love my marriage. I love my wife and everything, but marriage is complicated. And there is something beautiful about the third one, even though it sucks in a lot of ways. There's something beautiful about it. You know what I mean? And
it's authentic.
It's authentic. And that's what I feel about my marriage. It's we have a huge fight where it seems like we almost broke up, but at the end of the day, we're still there for each other. We're still there with each other. And there is these moments of intense, connection or understanding. And if I would have ended that second one, it would have, that if I see a romance that ends open-ended, like everything turned out perfectly, or I start fantasizing that things are perfectly, it threatens my understanding of my own existence. And I start to think that's, my life should be like that.
But we need more movies or TV shows to show us that reality, because that is the reality.
Totally.
And it's nothing like what we always see it to be. And it's really it's sad, really. But
it's hard to write. is what it is. It's like super, I mean, I'm not a great writer, but it's really hard to write. Like real relationships, real marriages. It's not easy stuff to write because
they're messy and they don't make sense and
they seem kind of boring, but when played out with the kind of, life and death stakes that it feels like when you're in a fight with your wife or your husband, about how your kid should be raised and whether or not you guys made the right choice and becoming a family. And even though it was all about peanut butter and the thing,
I don't think it ever ends.
No, but it has moments of, thank God I stayed, it has moments of that,
Yeah.
And they're only for moments, but we hold on to them, we grip onto them because that's just what life is too. Part of the whole fight is that we're all dying. We're all getting closer to death. And then we look at our spouse and I'm like, you know what? Last time I remember not being on the way to death was before I met you. And you're like, are you killing me? But no, it's not them. It's just life. And so it only gets worse and worse where you're like, I remember being alive and the whole world was about me. And then I met you.
Right.
And I got into this different phase. But that's just what life is. If you didn't have them, then you end up blaming yourself or just looking at the world in a different way. And because that's all it is. Whenever I'm mad at my wife, it's always because something insecure happened.
Really? So you're able to see that it's something about you?
No, not always. But I'm saying like there are multiple times when I'm upset at my wife in my head and I know that it has nothing to do with her because she didn't do anything differently than she did every day, and I know if I trace it back, like therapy has taught me, then I will find a moment that made me feel like I had no control over my existence and I was in danger. And then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But the stuff that's hard to get out of is when you're in a situation and your wife does something that feels like it's really, because what it feels like is a betrayal somehow. And even when it's not, even when it's some silly little thing. I was with a couple the other night and you take forever to pick your pants when we're buying pants. And she wants me to pick them so fast. And it was fun, sudden laughter, but there was a sense of like, it hurts me that this other person does this. So like, it hurts me.
Yeah.
And it starts to feel like there's something of it that feels like a betrayal in the moment of it happening. And it's hard to describe because part of you feels like I'm stupid to feel like that, because I understand that it wasn't. But there's so many layers.
Yeah, it's bringing up other things
and different things that it's just super complicated.
Yes, we're complex people. It is though. We are complex individuals.
But we've still decided to do it. We could very easily, and we have friends that have decided to not do it. They're like, I'm just going to be single because obviously that does not. We want kids, and for kids, you make sense. You make sense of it because it seems way better to show kids that it's a possibility, and we want to believe that it is the right choice. I want my kids to believe. I want my daughter to find someone that she's with. Because life is fucking hard sometimes, and my wife is great when life is hard, And you know what I think? Honestly, I think what you need to see is that it's hard, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like you're saying, why do we have to get upset over those little things? That's just who we are. Like we're human, and that doesn't mean it's not a problem necessarily. Mm-hmm. Right. It's big and messy and ugly, just like before, after, sunrise, sunset, whatever each one is called. It's the same thing. It's ugly and it's not perfect, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's fucking complicated. It is complicated. That's all it comes down to. Yep. But great. At the end of the day, you're right. I think that's really where a lot of our people who aren't like in war, I don't know. I think I might've been listening to an interview with Linklater, or maybe it was Ethan Hawke, and talking about how like, I'm not a soldier, my tragedies and stuff. I feel like I've lived tragedies but a lot of them have been in relationships, And so it's like, in some ways that's where the stories of our lives are, They're hard stories to tell, which is a shame. But they live in the DNA of our kids, which is sometimes not always great.
That's
sometimes
right.
Great.
They do.
This was fun.
What should we talk about in our next session?
I know, right? This is cool. Are they always like this? Pretty like all
No. They vary based on who who's here and what where we happen to be, I guess. Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
Good. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, really much.
Are you going to have regrets?
No, I don't remember the earliest part of the thing. So now I'm glad we didn't end on that moment, because there was a little period in there where I was kind of like getting flushed and like I couldn't think straight exactly. And
so weird. I didn't feel that from you at all, by the way. If you hadn't told me, and I'm pretty good at picking up, like I feel like I can feel what's what. I didn't feel that from you. Yeah,
I've always had an issue with that, because like I used to, I got really depressed when I was like 19 to 22. I took the stuff called Accutane.
Accutane. Yeah.
A huge side effect is depression. For acne.
Yeah.
Because I did some movie and they're like, you're gonna have to take Accutane. So I did it, and I got horribly depressed for 3 years. And most people were like, I just thought you didn't like me. That's how, that quiet kind of thing. But yeah, it's funny that you didn't notice it, because if you were inside my head, it's like huge. The room is filled with just insecurity, and I started breathing. It's amazing. Human beings and the human mind is like,
isn't it amazing?
An insane beast.
I told you this already like 3 times, but I really would like to know how the experience feels for you. And like after, I know that's part of it.
It's great. This is free therapy. I love it. No, I have an inclination, like probably like every human being does, to be understood and to express who I am and what it feels like to be. So the thing is it's scary. And so to be in a place where, you actually get through a moment of feeling insecure, even if you don't really understand it, to get to the other side can be a liberating feeling. And so it was this was fun.
Yeah, that's good. This is what I miss about therapy, though. Like, I do like to, be able to really keep working on things.
A lot of bad ones, though. A lot of boring sessions, at least for mine. Like, there's like some good ones, and some are like, I know I left, and she was like, that was long. Like, I just can't tap into it. And I'm like, I guess yesterday I was okay. I don't know. I guess I'm at.
You're not feeling.
Just not tapping in. Yeah.
Those aren't as good.
Yeah.
But still, I like the continuing contact too, which is something I don't love about the podcast. Is like, I'll have this, this is good.
Let's keep talking. We can do like a weekly session.
Yeah, let's do a weekly session.
Perfect.
Do you want to know how Jeremy felt after we talked? He shares his thoughts and feelings in a bonus video that you can watch right now. He also talks about a new project he's working on. It's called Homeward Bound LA. See it all, his reaction and his new project, and a few extra laughs right now on youtube.com/reallyfamous. I'm Cara Mayer Robinson. Thanks for listening.